constitutional view?
It's a non-denial denial. He's basically saying there's something that I did wrong, but maybe it's not as bad as the chief is saying. You know, lawyers will routinely tell their clients not to answer questions about evidence in the media. But public officials are different. I've represented some elected officials before, and no comment is not necessarily the best response. This guy has an election next year. And I think his position is, look, enough speculation. You have the tape, you've told everybody you think it's me smoking crack cocaine. Well, let's see it. And then I can respond to it, and then we can defend it.
Might he also be thinking about or calculating the what's next? Perhaps, you know, my future might be different if I resign versus whether I am fired as a result of what evidence there may or may not be.
Well, it's my understanding that Canadian law, the only way he's going to be fired is if he's convicted of a crime, which would be the possession of crack cocaine or drug paraphernalia. And I don't think, given his personality, that he's going to resign. You know.
Apparently, police have said they have a 400-page report on drug gangs, and that not only is there video, but there might be some snapshots, some other images that put the mayor in crack houses, interacting with people who are suspected to either be drug dealers or drug users.
Yeah. It's not the video. I mean, the video grabs the headlines, mayor maybe smoking crack, but ultimately, like in any criminal investigation, it's the facts. And these long police reports, these witnesses they've talked to, he has his driver, an admitted friend involved in an extortion allegation. So I think there's a lot more to the case than just the video, and now that's what we're going to see.
What's likely missing from this case?
Well, any hard evidence that the mayor is personally involved in drug distribution. Now, maybe if they end up charging his friend and his driver, he's going to cooperate with the government. He's going to say, look, you need to know more things about the mayor than you know. And then the video becomes important, because then it can corroborate what these other people are saying, and they may not be the best witnesses going forward.
It's a fantastic and really extraordinary spectacle, because of who is involved and, of course, because of the gaping holes in this investigation. We've got much more. Page Pate, Danielle Moss, we want to talk about another, what is now a highly publicized case, the Kendrick Johnson case. Criminal defense attorneys Page Pate and Danielle Moss. So, Danielle, you first, the feds are going to be now involved in this investigation. What will they be looking for that perhaps Georgia authorities may have overlooked or may have even collected?
I believe what the feds are going to look at now is the hours and hours of surveillance tape that's out there that it appears was not looked through properly by the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department, and to try and interview more of the students and determine who exactly was there, and also whether or not the investigation was contaminated as a result of the fact that certain evidence was not properly collected. I think that that's the route they're going to take.
So, Paige, are federal investigators involved here because they see that the investigation was not done thoroughly? Or was there something that was gathered that they looked at differently, some type of evidence and they just saw through a different lens and said, you know what, this now reaches the level of our involvement?
I think that's it. You know, it's very unusual for the federal authorities to step in and simply review a state investigation. There has to be a reason for it. And I think what we heard from the family retaining their own medical examiner, their own pathologist, to look at the body again, and his report finding blunt force trauma is inconsistent with what the GBI expert said. So that's enough for
suffocation.
The feds.
That's a big difference.
It's
and
a huge
that's really
difference.
hard, I think, even for the layman to say, how do you confuse blunt force trauma as a possible cause of death with suffocation? I mean, isn't there going to be, well, the body in and of itself will be in a different condition. You might see some evidence of a blow versus suffocation.
Well, pathology is science, but there's also an art to it. Different experts are going to have different opinions. I mean, that's why in many criminal trials, you'll hear a defense expert, you'll hear a state's expert, and those witnesses won't always agree. But I think this is the feds coming in to have this third look at it and maybe an objective look at it to make a determination which one is right.
Do you worry, we're talking about 11 months now after this took place, after his body was found in this gym, do you worry that the evidence has been so compromised that there's no way to really conduct a thorough investigation this far out? Danielle.
It's problematic, you know, and we've seen this before with many other cases where crime scenes have been contaminated, and then it's very difficult to get that evidence back. So that's a problem now. But I do believe that there is enough potential evidence dealing with the surveillance tapes that they may be able to find something to help the family.
Paige?
Danielle's right. You know, the colder a case gets, the more difficult it becomes to investigate. But there's a lot of stuff out there they simply didn't look at. The surveillance tapes, the shoes that were found, the blood on the wall. So the FBI has a place to start. Now, where they finish, that's another question. Because the feds can't just prosecute them if they think there's been a crime. It has to be a federal crime. So we'll see where the investigation leads.
And what does your gut say? Was this bad investigation, or does this look like signs of a cover-up?
To me, it looks like a sloppy investigation until you get to the point where they open the body and there's a bunch of newspaper in there. That's uncommon. I mean, even the GBI, their medical examiners say, look, we don't do that. We put the organs back in there, send it to the funeral home. Funeral home said it wasn't us, it was the prosecutor. So that's odd.
And I believe that there's a lot of conflicting evidence aside from the forensic reports regarding cause of death. The idea that this child fell into this mat, if in fact he's reaching for the sneaker, why are his arms not in front of him? Why were his arms found at his side? Why are his sneakers on top of his body? It's my understanding that the diameter of the mat is 16 inches and the diameter of his shoulders are 19. There's plenty of factual inconsistencies in this case, which I think warrant the feds taking another look.
Danielle Moss, Paige Pate, thanks so much to both of you. Appreciate it.